Toddler saw a German Shepherd locked in a giant recycling bin. What she did next was unforgettable. What happened next will shock you. A 5-year-old girl's simple walk around her neighborhood turned into the most incredible rescue mission you've ever heard. The story you're about to listen to will leave you speechless, so make sure to like, share, subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The morning sun painted golden streaks across Maple Street as tiny footsteps echoed on the cracked sidewalk. Emma, barely 5 years old, with pigtails bouncing with each step, had snuck out of her house while her mother Sarah caught a few precious hours of sleep. Sarah worked night shifts at the city hospital, and mornings like these were her only chance to rest. Emma knew she shouldn't wander off, but something about the quiet neighborhood called to her curious spirit. The recycling yard at the end of their street usually buzzed with activity, but today it felt different, empty, too quiet. Emma kicked a small pebble as she walked, her bright pink sneakers making soft sounds against the pavement. She was humming a tune she'd heard on the radio when something stopped her cold, a sound, faint but unmistakable. Emma tilted her head, her small ears straining to catch it again. There it was, a soft whimper, like when her stuffed animals seemed to cry in her dreams. But this wasn't a dream. This was real, and it was coming from the massive blue recycling bin that sat like a giant monster at the corner of the yard. "Hello," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. The whimpering stopped for a moment, then returned, stronger this time, more desperate. Her heart began to race. Someone, or something, was trapped inside that bin. Emma looked around the empty street, hoping to see an adult who could help. But the morning was still too early, and the neighborhood slept peacefully, unaware of the drama unfolding just steps away. Emma approached the recycling bin slowly, her small hands shaking slightly. The blue metal container stood nearly twice her height, its lid slightly askew. As she got closer, she could see the bin rocking ever so slightly, as if something inside was trying to get out. "It's okay," she whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was talking to whatever was inside or to herself. "I'm here now." The whimpering grew louder, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. She could hear something else now, heavy panting, like when her neighbor's dog ran too fast in the summer heat. Whatever was inside that bin was alive, scared, and probably hurt. Emma stood on her tiptoes, trying to peek through the gap where the lid didn't quite meet the rim. The morning light was still dim, but she could make out a shape inside, dark fur, and what looked like a pair of eyes reflecting the little light that filtered through. "Oh my God," Emma breathed, her small voice filled with wonder and fear. "You're a dog!" The panting intensified, and the bin shook again. Emma realized that this wasn't just any dog. It was big, really big, and it was definitely stuck. The recycling bin's opening was too high for it to climb out, and from what Emma could see, the poor animal looked exhausted from trying. "Don't worry," Emma said, her voice growing stronger with determination. "I'm going to help you." But as she looked at the massive bin and then down at her own tiny hands, Emma realized she had no idea how. The lid was heavy. She'd watched the garbage men struggle with it before. There was no way she could lift it by herself. Emma looked around the recycling yard, her mind racing. There had to be something she could use. Her eyes fell on a broken broomstick that someone had thrown away, lying forgotten near a pile of old cardboard boxes. It wasn't much, but it might work as a lever. She grabbed the broomstick, surprised by how heavy it felt in her small hands. Dragging it over to the bin, she wedged one end under the lid and pushed down on the other end with all her might. The lid creaked and moved slightly, creating a bigger gap. The dog inside made a different sound now. Not quite a whimper, but something that sounded almost like relief. Emma could see more of the animal now, and her heart nearly broke at what she saw. It was a German Shepherd, beautiful, but clearly in distress. Its dark brown and black fur was matted and dirty, and Emma could see scratches along its side. But what made her gasp was the way the dog looked at her, with eyes so full of intelligence and gratitude that Emma felt like she was looking at a person, not just an animal. "You're hurt," Emma whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Someone hurt you, didn't they?" The dog, Emma decided it was a girl dog, though she couldn't explain why, lowered her head as if nodding. Emma's small hands clenched into fists. She didn't understand why anyone would hurt such a beautiful animal, but she knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going to let this dog suffer anymore. Emma climbed onto an old crate that sat next to the bin, giving her just enough height to reach the opening she'd created. The dog watched her approach, and Emma was amazed to see that, instead of fear, there was trust in those dark eyes. "I'm Emma," she said softly, extending her hand slowly. "What's your name?" The dog sniffed her hand gently, then licked it with a warm, rough tongue. Emma giggled despite the seriousness of the situation. "I'm going to call you Bella," she decided, "because you're beautiful, even when you're scared." Bella, the name seemed to fit perfectly, whined softly and moved closer to Emma's hand. It was then that Emma noticed something that made her heart skip a beat. Bella's belly was round and swollen in a way that Emma had seen before when her aunt's cat had been expecting kittens. "Oh, Bella," Emma breathed. "You're going to have puppies, aren't you?" Bella's tail wagged weakly, and Emma knew she was right. This wasn't just a lost dog. This was a mother-to-be who needed help desperately. Emma's determination grew stronger. She had to get Bella out of there, and she had to do it now. Emma looked around the recycling yard one more time, making sure no one was watching. Then, with a courage that surprised even herself, she began to climb into the bin. It was awkward and scary, but she managed to lower herself down next to Bella. The smell inside the bin was awful. A mixture of old food, wet cardboard, and something else Emma couldn't identify. But she ignored it, focusing instead on the frightened animal beside her. Bella was even bigger than Emma had realized, and up close, she could see just how beautiful the dog really was. "It's okay, girl," Emma whispered, gently stroking Bella's head. "I'm going to get you out of here." Bella leaned into Emma's touch, and for a moment, they just sat there together in the dim light of the recycling bin. Emma could feel Bella's heartbeat, fast and strong, and she wondered what terrible thing had happened to bring such a magnificent dog to this place. Emma pulled out the small bag of crackers she'd brought from home, breaking them into pieces and offering them to Bella. The dog ate gratefully, and Emma shared her juice box, pouring water into her cupped hands for Bella to drink. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Emma said, her mind already working on a plan. "But first, we need to get you out of here." Emma stood up carefully, testing the height of the bin's walls. If she could boost Bella up, maybe she could help her climb out. But as she looked at the dog's size and condition, she realized it wouldn't be that simple. "Okay, new plan," Emma said aloud, talking to Bella as if she were a person. "I'm going to climb out first, and then I'm going to help you." Emma managed to scramble out of the bin, her small body protesting from the effort. Once she was out, she looked down at Bella, who was watching her with those intelligent eyes. "I'll be right back," Emma promised. "Don't go anywhere." Emma ran to the pile of cardboard boxes she'd seen earlier, selecting the biggest and strongest ones she could find. She dragged them over to the bin, stacking them to create a makeshift ramp. It wasn't perfect, but it might work. "Come on, Bella," Emma called softly. "Try to climb up." Bella looked at the cardboard ramp, then at Emma, and seemed to understand. With great effort, she managed to climb up the makeshift stairs Emma had created. It was slow going, and Emma held her breath with each step. But finally, Bella emerged from the bin. Once Bella was out, Emma could see the full extent of her condition. The dog was definitely pregnant, and she had several scratches and cuts that needed attention. But what caught Emma's attention was something else entirely. A collar around Bella's neck that she hadn't noticed before. The collar was unusual, made of tough black material with what looks like a small metal tag attached. But it wasn't like any dog tag Emma had ever seen. This one looked more like the computer chips her mom used at work, and there were numbers scratched into the metal surface. "What is this?" Emma wondered aloud, gently touching the tag. Bella tensed slightly when Emma touched it, as if the collar brought back bad memories. Emma made a decision. Whatever this collar was, whatever those numbers meant, she would figure it out later. Right now, she needed to get Bella somewhere safe, and she knew exactly where to take her. Behind Emma's house, hidden among the overgrown bushes and tall grass, stood an old playhouse that her father had built years ago. It was weathered and forgotten, but it was dry and hidden from view, perfect for a secret hideout. "Come on, Bella," Emma whispered, leading the way. "I know where we can go." Bella followed Emma across the empty street, moving slowly but steadily. Emma kept looking around, making sure no one was watching them. Something told her that keeping Bella secret was important, though she couldn't explain why. The playhouse was just as Emma remembered it, small but cozy, with enough room for both of them. Emma had already decided that this would be Bella's new home, at least until she could figure out what to do next. "This is it," Emma announced proudly, holding open the little door. "Your new house." Bella sniffed around the playhouse, exploring every corner. She seemed to approve, settling down in the corner where the morning sun created a warm patch of light. Emma sat down beside her, gently stroking her fur. "You're safe now," Emma whispered. "I promise." But even as she said the words, Emma felt a strange chill run down her spine. Something about this whole situation felt bigger than just a lost dog. The strange collar, the way Bella had ended up in that recycling bin, the intelligence in her eyes, it all added up to something Emma didn't understand yet. As if sensing her thoughts, Bella raised her head and looked directly at Emma. In that moment, Emma felt like Bella was trying to tell her something important, something that would change everything. "What is it, girl?" Emma asked softly. "What happened to you?" Bella whined softly and laid her head on Emma's lap. Emma continued to pet her, but her mind was racing. She had found more than just a lost dog. She had found a mystery, and something deep inside her told her that this mystery was just beginning. Emma gathered her favorite stuffed animals from her room, along with some old blankets and pillows. She made multiple trips, always checking to make sure her mom was still sleeping. Each time she returned to the playhouse, Bella was waiting for her, tail wagging weakly, but eyes bright with gratitude. "There," Emma said, arranging the blankets into a comfortable bed. "Now you have everything you need." Emma shared her lunch with Bella, crackers, apple slices, and her favorite juice box. As she watched Bella eat, Emma noticed something else about the collar. In the sunlight filtering through the playhouse windows, she could see that the metal tag wasn't just scratched. It was deliberately etched with symbols and numbers. "What are these numbers for?" Emma wondered aloud, trying to read them. But they were too small for her to make out clearly. Bella finished eating and curled up on the blanket bed Emma had made for her. Emma lay down beside her, feeling the warmth of Bella's fur against her side. For the first time since finding her, Emma felt like everything might be okay. But as the afternoon sun began to fade, Emma heard something that made her blood run cold, the sound of a car engine moving slowly down their street. She peeked through the playhouse window and saw a black van driving past their house, twice. Emma's heart began to race. The van was moving too slowly, and the driver seemed to be looking at something specific. Emma watched as the van stopped near the recycling yard, and a man got out with what looked like a camera. "Oh no," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. "They're looking for you, aren't they?" Bella's ears perked up at the sound of the van, and Emma could feel her whole body tense. Whatever had happened to Bella, whoever had put her in that recycling bin, they were still out there, and they were looking for her. Emma made a decision that would change everything. She wasn't going to let anyone hurt Bella ever again. Whatever it took, whatever the cost, she was going to protect her new friend, even if it meant keeping the biggest secret of her life. "Don't worry, Bella," Emma whispered, wrapping her arms around the big dog. "I won't let them find you, I promise." But as Emma held Bella close, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was much bigger than she realized. The strange collar, the mysterious van, the way Bella had ended up in that recycling bin. It all pointed to something dangerous, something that a 5-year-old girl shouldn't have to face alone. Emma looked into Bella's eyes one more time, and what she saw there confirmed her worst fears. This wasn't just about a lost dog. This was about something much more serious, something that would test Emma's courage in ways she never imagined. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emma knew her mom would be waking up soon, and she would have to go inside and pretend everything was normal. But nothing would ever be normal again, not after today, not after finding Bella. Emma gave Bella one last hug, breathing in the smell of her warm fur. "I'll be back as soon as I can," she promised, "and tomorrow we're going to figure out what those numbers mean." As Emma walked back to her house, she couldn't help but look over her shoulder at the playhouse. Inside, she knew Bella was watching the windows, alert for any sign of danger. Emma had saved Bella from the recycling bin, but she had a feeling that the real rescue was just beginning. The black van had driven away, but Emma knew it would be back. And when it came, she would be ready. She had to be. Because now she wasn't just Emma anymore. She was Bella's protector, her only hope in a world that seemed determined to hurt her. Emma climbed the steps to her house, her small hand trembling slightly as she reached for the door handle. Behind her, the playhouse stood silent in the growing darkness, hiding its precious secret. Emma didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for certain. She would do whatever it took to keep Bella safe. The story was far from over. In fact, Emma had a feeling it was just beginning. Emma barely slept that night. Every sound made her jump. The wind rustling through the trees, a car passing by, even the old house settling on its foundation. She kept thinking about Bella alone in the playhouse, probably scared and confused. What if the people in the black van came back? What if they found her? When morning finally came, Emma was already awake, staring at the ceiling. She could hear her mom moving around in the kitchen, getting ready for another night shift. Emma waited until she heard the shower running, then quickly grabbed some food from the kitchen and slipped outside. The playhouse looked exactly as she'd left it, but Emma's heart was pounding as she approached. "Bella?" she called softly. "Are you okay?" A soft whine came from inside, and Emma let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She opened the little door and found Bella curled up on the blankets, but something was different. Bella looked more tired than before, and her breathing seemed heavier. "What's wrong, girl?" Emma asked, kneeling beside her. That's when she noticed it. Bella's belly seemed even bigger than yesterday, and she was panting in a way that made Emma worried. Emma gently touched Bella's side and felt movement underneath. The puppies were moving around, and from what Emma could tell, they were getting ready to come out soon. Her aunt's cat had acted the same way right before having her kittens. "Oh, Bella," Emma whispered. "You're going to have your baby soon, aren't you?" Bella looked at Emma with those intelligent eyes, and Emma could see both fear and trust there. Bella was scared, but she trusted Emma to help her. The weight of that responsibility made Emma's stomach flutter with nervousness. Emma brought fresh water and more food, watching as Bella ate slowly. She was definitely getting ready to give birth, and Emma knew she needed to make the playhouse as comfortable as possible. She gathered more blankets and created a cozy nest in the corner where Bella seemed to prefer resting. As Emma worked, she kept thinking about the strange collar around Bella's neck. Those numbers had to mean something important. Maybe they were a clue about where Bella came from, or who she belonged to. Emma made a decision. She needed to look at those numbers more carefully. "Can I see your collar, Bella?" Emma asked softly. Bella seemed to understand and lifted her head, allowing Emma to examine the metal tag more closely. In the morning light, Emma could see the numbers more clearly now. They were small but precise. 7749-MK-Delta. Below that were more symbols that looked like letters and numbers mixed together. Emma didn't understand what they meant, but she had an idea about how to find out. Her mom had an old phone in the kitchen drawer, one she used to use for work before getting her new one. Emma had seen her mom look things up on it before. Maybe she could use it to search for these numbers and see what came up. "I'll be right back," Emma promised Bella, giving her a gentle pat. "I'm going to try to figure out what these numbers mean." Emma crept back into the house, listening for any sign that her mom was awake. She could hear the shower still running, so she had a few minutes. Emma found the old phone in the kitchen drawer and turned it on, her small fingers fumbling with the buttons. The phone took forever to start up, and Emma kept glancing toward the bathroom, expecting her mom to appear at any moment. Finally, the screen lit up, and Emma carefully typed in the numbers from Bella's collar, 7749-MK-Delta. What appeared on the screen made Emma's blood run cold. The first result was a news article with a headline that made her heart race. "Military Working Dog Unit reports missing K9 asset." Emma's hands shook as she tried to read the article, but the words were too big and complicated for her to understand completely. What she could understand was scary enough. The article talked about a highly trained military dog that had gone missing during a classified operation. There were mentions of sensitive information and potential security risk. Emma didn't understand all the words, but she understood enough to know that Bella wasn't just any dog. Emma scrolled down and found something that made her gasp out loud. There was a picture of a German Shepherd that looked exactly like Bella, but the dog in the picture was wearing a special vest and standing next to a soldier in uniform. The caption read, "K9 Unit Specialist Ranger missing after classified mission compromised." "Ranger?" Emma whispered. So that was Bella's real name. But why was she being called Bella now? And what was this about a classified mission? Emma heard the shower turn off and quickly turned off the phone, shoving it back in the drawer. She had to get outside before her mom saw her. But as she headed for the door, she heard her mom calling her name. "Emma, are you up already, sweetie?" Emma's heart pounded as she tried to think of an excuse. "I'm just going outside to play, Mom," she called back, trying to keep her voice normal. "Okay, but don't go too far. And if anyone comes looking for you, you come straight inside, okay?" Emma froze. Why would someone come looking for me? Her mom appeared in the hallway, wrapped in a bathrobe with her hair still wet. She looked tired and worried about something. "There was a man asking questions at the hospital last night. He was asking about missing animals in the neighborhood. Just seemed strange, that's all." Emma's mouth went dry. "What kind of questions?" "He wanted to know if anyone had brought in an injured dog, especially a German Shepherd. He said he was from some kind of animal control agency, but..." Her mom shrugged. "Something about him didn't seem right. Just promise me you'll be careful, okay?" Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Her mom was talking about the same people who were looking for Bella, for Ranger. They were getting closer, and Emma didn't know what to do. After her mom left for work, Emma hurried back to the playhouse. Bella, Ranger, was lying on her side now, panting heavily. Emma could see that the puppies were coming soon, maybe even today. "I know who you are now," Emma said softly, sitting beside Bella. "Your real name is Ranger, and you're a military dog, but I don't understand what happened to you or why you're running." Bella's ears perked up at the name Ranger, and she looked at Emma with what seemed like surprise. Emma gently stroked her head, feeling the soft fur beneath her fingers. "I know you're scared," Emma continued, "and I know you're about to have babies, but I'm going to keep you safe, I promise, no matter what." Emma spent the afternoon making the playhouse as comfortable as possible. She brought more blankets, some old towels her mom wouldn't miss, and even a small bowl of warm water. She had watched her aunt help when the cat had kittens, and she tried to remember everything that had been important. As the sun began to set, Emma noticed that Bella was getting more restless. She would lie down, then get up and pace around the small playhouse, then lie down again. Emma had seen this behavior before. The kittens had been born just a few hours after their mother started acting the same way. "It's okay, girl," Emma said softly, not sure if she should call her Bella or Ranger. "I'm here with you. You're going to be okay." That's when Emma heard it, the sound of a car engine moving slowly down their street. Emma's heart began to race as she peeked through the playhouse window. The black van was back, and this time, it wasn't just driving by. It was stopping. Emma watched in horror as two men got out of the van. They were both wearing dark clothes and had serious expressions on their faces. One of them had what looked like a handheld device, maybe some kind of scanner or tracker. "Oh no," Emma whispered. "They're looking for you." Bella had heard the van too, and she was trying to stand up despite her condition. Emma could see the fear in her eyes, and she knew that Bella was terrified of these men. Whatever they had done to her before, she didn't want to go back to them. Emma made a decision that surprised even herself. She was going to protect Bella, no matter what it took. Even if it meant lying to adults, even if it meant getting in trouble, she wasn't going to let these men take her friend. "Stay here," Emma whispered to Bella. "Don't make any noise. I'm going to go see what they want." Emma crept out of the playhouse and hid behind a tree where she could see the men, but they couldn't see her. She watched as they walked around the recycling yard, using their device to scan the area. They seemed to be looking for something specific, and Emma had a terrible feeling she knew what it was. One of the men was talking on a phone, and Emma strained to hear what he was saying. She couldn't make out all the words, but she heard enough to make her blood run cold. Tracking signal was definitely here. Asset must be close. Increase search radius. They were tracking Bella somehow. Maybe there was something in her collar that Emma hadn't noticed, something that was sending a signal to these men. Emma realized that as long as Bella wore that collar, she would never be safe. Emma watched as the men spent another 10 minutes searching the area, then got back in their van and drove away. But Emma knew they would be back. They weren't going to give up, and next time they might search more thoroughly. Emma hurried back to the playhouse, her mind racing with plans. She had to figure out how to remove Bella's collar without hurting her, and she had to do it soon, before the men came back. "They're gone for now," Emma told Bella, who was lying on her side and panting harder than before. "But they'll be back. We need to get that collar off you." Emma examined the collar carefully. It seemed to be held together with a strong clasp, but Emma's small fingers couldn't get enough grip to open it. She would need something to help her. Maybe a pair of pliers or scissors. That's when Emma heard a different sound. A soft whimpering from Bella that was different from anything she'd heard before. Emma looked at Bella and realized what was happening. The puppies were coming now, and there was nothing Emma could do to stop it. "Oh, Bella," Emma whispered. "It's happening, isn't it?" Bella looked at Emma with trust and fear mixed in her eyes. Emma had never felt so responsible for anything in her life. She was just a 5-year-old girl, and she was about to help deliver puppies while hiding from dangerous men who were hunting for them. Emma took a deep breath and tried to remember everything her aunt had told her about helping animals give birth. The most important thing was to stay calm and let nature take its course. Animals had been having babies for millions of years without human help, but Emma wanted to do everything she could to make sure Bella and her puppies were safe. "It's okay," Emma said softly, stroking Bella's head. "I'm here with you. You're going to be a great mom." Over the next few hours, Emma watched in amazement as Bella gave birth to 4 beautiful puppies. They were tiny and helpless, but they were alive and healthy. Emma had never seen anything so incredible in her life. As Bella cleaned her puppies and made sure they were nursing properly, Emma felt a mix of joy and terror. She had just witnessed a miracle, but she knew that Bella and her babies were still in danger. The men in the black van would be back, and when they came, Emma had to be ready. Emma looked at the collar around Bella's neck, then at the tiny puppies nursing against their mother's side. She had to make a choice: remove the collar and risk hurting Bella, or leave it on and risk having them all found by the men who were hunting her. As if reading her thoughts, Bella looked up at Emma and made a soft sound. Emma saw something in Bella's eyes that made her decision for her. Bella trusted her completely, and Emma wasn't going to let her down. "Tomorrow," Emma whispered to Bella and her puppies, "tomorrow we're going to figure out how to keep you all safe. I promise." But as Emma sat in the playhouse, watching Bella with her newborn puppies, she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The men in the black van were getting closer, and Emma was running out of places to hide. She needed help, but she didn't know who she could trust. Emma looked at the little family she was protecting, and she made a vow that would change everything. She wasn't just a 5-year-old girl anymore. She was a protector, a guardian, and she would do whatever it took to keep Bella and her puppies safe, even if it meant facing the most dangerous people she had ever encountered. The night was quiet now, but Emma knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, and she had to be ready for them because Bella and her puppies were counting on her. The real adventure was just beginning. Emma woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. Wait, she didn't have a phone. Emma sat up in bed, confused and groggy. The sound was coming from downstairs, from the kitchen drawer where she'd hidden her mom's old phone, but she was sure she had turned it off. Heart pounding, Emma crept downstairs in her pajamas. The old phone was definitely buzzing, and when she picked it up, she saw something that made her stomach drop. The screen showed an incoming call from a number she didn't recognize, but below it was a message that made her blood run cold. Asset tracking signal detected, location confirmed. Emma's hand shook as she quickly turned off the phone. Somehow, just by searching for those numbers yesterday, she had triggered something. The people looking for Bella now knew someone was searching for information about her. Emma ran outside to the playhouse, not caring that she was still in her pajamas and barefoot. "Bella!" she whispered urgently as she opened the door. Bella was awake, nursing her 4 tiny puppies. She looked tired but alert, and when she saw Emma's panicked expression, her ears perked up with concern. "They know," Emma said breathlessly. "I don't know how, but they know someone is looking for information about you. We have to get that collar off you right now." Emma examined the collar again, this time more desperately. The clasp was strong, but she noticed something she hadn't seen before, a tiny blinking light hidden beneath Bella's fur, so small it was almost invisible. That was how they were tracking her. "I'll be right back," Emma promised, running back to the house. In the garage, Emma found her dad's old toolbox. She grabbed a pair of small wire cutters and hurried back to the playhouse. Bella seemed to understand what Emma was trying to do, and held very still as Emma carefully worked on the collar. The wire cutters were almost too big for Emma's small hands, but after several tense minutes, she managed to cut through the collar's strap. The moment it came off, the tiny blinking light went dark. "There," Emma said. throwing the collar into a corner of the playhouse. Now they can't track you anymore. But Emma's relief was short-lived. As she was examining the collar, she noticed something else, a small compartment she hadn't seen before. It had popped open when the collar was damaged, revealing a tiny memory chip inside. Emma carefully removed the chip, holding it up to the light. It was smaller than her fingernail, but she had a feeling it contained important information. Maybe this was what the men in the black van were really after. Emma pocketed the chip and looked at Bella and her puppies. They seemed peaceful now, the babies making soft squeaking sounds as they nursed. But Emma knew this peace wouldn't last long. "I need to figure out what's on this chip," Emma told Bella. "Maybe it will help me understand why those men are after you." Emma remembered that her older cousin Jake lived just a few blocks away. Jake was 16 and knew everything about computers and technology. If anyone could help her figure out what was on the chip, it would be him. But first, Emma had to make sure Bella and the puppies were as safe as possible. She gathered all the food and water she could find and made sure the playhouse was completely hidden from view. She also moved the broken collar to the other side of the yard, hoping that if the tracking signal came back online, it would lead the searchers away from the playhouse. "I have to go get help," Emma told Bella, "but I'll be back as soon as I can. Keep the babies quiet, okay?" Bella seemed to understand, nuzzling Emma's hand gently before settling back down with her puppies. Emma got dressed quickly and told her mom she was going to visit Jake. Her mom was getting ready for another night shift and seemed distracted, so she didn't ask many questions. The walk to Jake's house felt like it took forever. Emma kept looking over her shoulder, expecting to see the black van following her. Every car that passed made her jump, and every stranger she saw made her wonder if they were looking for Bella. Jake lived in a small apartment above his mom's bakery. Emma climbed the stairs and knocked on the door, hoping he was home. "Emma?" Jake opened the door, looking surprised. "What are you doing?" "Here. You look like you've seen a ghost." "Jake, I need your help," Emma said urgently. "It's really important, and I can't tell any adults about it." Jake raised an eyebrow, but let her inside. His apartment was filled with computers, video game consoles, and electronic equipment that Emma didn't recognize. "What's going on?" Jake asked, sitting down at his main computer. Emma pulled out the memory chip, her hands shaking slightly. "I need you to see what's on this chip. But Jake, you have to promise me you won't tell anyone about it. People's lives could be in danger." Jake looked at the tiny chip, then at Emma's serious expression. "Emma, where did you get this? This looks like military-grade equipment." "Please, Jake, just look at it first, and then I'll explain everything." Jake studied Emma's face for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but you're going to tell me the whole story." Jake inserted the chip into a special reader connected to his computer. The screen filled with files and data that looked like gibberish to Emma, but Jake's expression grew more serious as he scrolled through them. "Emma," Jake said slowly, "this is encrypted military data. There are mission reports, coordinates, communication logs. This is seriously classified stuff." "Can you read any of it?" Emma asked, leaning closer to the screen. Jake typed rapidly, running the files through different programs. "I'm trying to decrypt some of these files, but it's going to take time. Emma, you need to tell me where you got this right now." Emma took a deep breath and told Jake everything. Finding Bella in the recycling bin, the black van, the men with tracking equipment, and Bella giving birth to puppies in the playhouse. Jake listened without interrupting, his expression growing more concerned with each detail. "Emma, this is way more serious than you realize," Jake said when she finished. "If this dog really is a military asset, and if she has classified information, then the people looking for her aren't just animal control officers. They could be government agents, or even worse." "What do you mean, worse?" Emma asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. If this mission was compromised like the news article said, then there might be bad people involved too. People who would hurt the dog to get this information. Emma felt sick to her stomach. "So Bella really is in danger." "More than you know," Jake said, turning back to his computer. "But maybe we can help her. Let me try to decrypt one of these audio files. If we can figure out what happened during this mission, we might be able to understand who's after her and why." Jake worked for almost an hour, running different programs and typing code that Emma didn't understand. Finally, he looked up with excitement. "I got one of the audio files to play," he said. "But Emma, you need to be prepared. This might be difficult to hear." Jake pressed play, and Emma heard a man's voice, weak and shaky, like he was hurt or dying. This is Sergeant Martinez, K9 Unit Delta. Our position has been compromised. The arms dealers know we have evidence of their operation. They've killed most of my unit. Ranger has the backup drive with all our evidence. Photos, documents, everything we need to stop them. If something happens to me, Ranger knows to run. She's been trained for this. The chip in her collar contains everything. Not just our mission data, but proof of the illegal weapons sales to terrorist groups. They can't get their hands on this information. Ranger is smart enough to find help, but they'll never stop hunting her. She's carrying the evidence that could save hundreds of lives. But it also makes her the most wanted dog in the world. The recording cut off, leaving Emma and Jake sitting in stunned silence. "Oh my God," Emma whispered. "Bella, Ranger, she's not just running from her handlers. She's running from criminals who killed her soldier." Jake nodded grimly. "And now those criminals are probably working with corrupt government agents to find her. Emma, this dog isn't just lost. She's carrying evidence that could stop a major criminal operation." Emma felt overwhelmed. She was just a 5-year-old girl, and she was protecting a dog who was basically a 4-legged spy carrying evidence against dangerous criminals. "What do we do?" Emma asked. "We need to get this information to the right people," Jake said. "But we have to be careful. If there are corrupt agents involved, we can't trust just anyone." That's when they heard it, the sound of vehicles pulling up outside. Emma and Jake looked out the window and saw not just the black van, but 2 other dark cars as well. Men in suits were getting out, and they were heading toward the bakery. "They found us," Emma said, her voice barely a whisper. Jake quickly copied all the files from the chip onto a secure drive and handed it to Emma. "Take this and run. Go back to Ranger and keep her safe. I'll try to slow these guys down." "But what about you?" Emma asked, tears starting to form in her eyes. "Don't worry about me. They want the dog and the evidence, not some teenager. But Emma, you can't go home. They'll be watching your house too." Emma pocketed the drive and headed for the back door, but Jake stopped her. "Wait," he said, grabbing a prepaid cell phone from his desk. "Take this. I've programmed my number into it and one other number. A friend of my dad's who works for the FBI. His name is Agent Torres, and my dad says he's one of the good guys. If things get really bad, call him." Emma took the phone with shaking hands. "How will I know if he's really good?" "Tell him about the Northside corruption case from last year. If he's really Agent Torres, he'll know what you're talking about. That's how you'll know you can trust him." Emma heard footsteps on the stairs leading to Jake's apartment. "They're coming," she whispered. "Go," Jake said urgently. "Keep Ranger safe and don't let them. Get that evidence. A lot of people are counting on you now, even if they don't know it." Emma slipped out the back door just as she heard pounding on Jake's front door. She ran through the alley behind the bakery, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. As she ran, Emma realized that everything had changed. This wasn't just about saving a lost dog anymore. Bella, Ranger, was carrying evidence that could stop dangerous criminals and save lives. And somehow, Emma had become the only person standing between those criminals and the evidence they were desperately trying to find. Emma made her way back toward her neighborhood, but she didn't go straight home. Instead, she took a longer route, constantly checking to make sure no one was following her. She had to get back to Ranger and figure out their next move. But as Emma approached her street, she saw something that made her blood freeze. There were 2 police cars parked outside her house, and she could see her mom talking to officers on the front porch. The black van was parked across the street, and the men from earlier were watching everything. Emma ducked behind a neighbor's fence, her mind racing. They had found her house. They were probably telling her mom some story about a missing dog or a lost child. But Emma knew the truth. They were looking for Ranger, and they would search everywhere until they found her. Emma realized she couldn't go home. She couldn't lead these people to Ranger and her puppies. She was on her own now, and she had to figure out how to protect the most important secret in the world. Emma made her way carefully through the neighbors' backyards, staying hidden behind fences and bushes. She had to get to the playhouse without being seen, warn Ranger about the danger, and figure out their next move. But as Emma crept closer to her own backyard, she saw something that made her heart stop. There were men with flashlights searching the area around the playhouse. They hadn't found it yet, but they were getting close. Emma watched in horror as one of the men pointed directly at the playhouse and started walking toward it. In just a few seconds, he would discover Ranger and her puppies. Emma made a decision that would change everything. She couldn't let them find Ranger, no matter what it cost her. She stood up from her hiding place and ran directly at the man heading for the playhouse. "Hey!" she shouted at the top of her lungs. "What are you doing in my yard?" The men with flashlights all turned toward her, and Emma saw her chance. While they were distracted by her, she ran to the playhouse and quickly opened the door. "Run, Ranger!" she whispered urgently. "Take your babies and run to the old storm drain behind the Miller's house. I'll find you there." Ranger looked at Emma with those intelligent eyes, and Emma could see that she understood. Ranger gently picked up one of her puppies in her mouth and slipped out the back of the playhouse, heading for the storm drain Emma had mentioned. Emma turned around to face the men who were now surrounding her. She was scared, but she was also determined. She had bought Ranger time to escape with her puppies, and that was what mattered most. "Little girl," one of the men said, trying to sound friendly, "we're looking for a lost dog. Have you seen a German Shepherd around here?" Emma looked the man straight in the eye and lied with more conviction than she had ever lied about anything in her life. "No," she said firmly, "I haven't seen any dogs." But as Emma stood there, surrounded by men who were hunting her best friend, she knew that this was far from over. Ranger was safe for now, but these people wouldn't give up, and Emma was the only one who could keep the most important secret in the world from falling into the wrong hands. The real fight was just beginning, and Emma was ready for it. Emma spent the next hour being questioned by the men, but she stuck to her story. No, she hadn't seen any dogs. No, she didn't know anything about missing animals. No, she hadn't been in the recycling yard recently. She lied with such conviction that even she almost believed herself. Finally, the men seemed to give up and left with warnings for Emma to call immediately if she saw anything suspicious. Emma watched from her bedroom window as the black van and the other cars drove away, but she knew they would be back. Once she was sure they were gone, Emma snuck out of the house again. Her mom was inside, stressed and confused about why so many people were suddenly interested in their neighborhood. Emma felt terrible about lying to her mom too, but she couldn't risk telling the truth. Emma made her way carefully to the storm drain behind the Miller's house. It was an old concrete tunnel that carried rainwater, but it had been dry for months. Emma had played there before, so she knew Ranger would be safe inside. "Ranger?" Emma called softly into the dark tunnel. "It's me. It's safe now." She heard a soft whine from deep inside the tunnel, and Emma crawled in on her hands and knees. The tunnel was bigger than it looked from outside, and about 20 feet in, she found Ranger curled up with all 4 of her puppies. "Good girl," Emma whispered, gently petting Ranger's head. "You got them all out safely." Ranger licked Emma's hand, and Emma could see relief in her eyes. But Emma also noticed that Ranger looked exhausted. Carrying 4 puppies to safety while still recovering from giving birth had been incredibly difficult for her. "We can't stay here long," Emma told Ranger. "They'll search everywhere eventually. We need to find somewhere safer." Emma thought about their options. They couldn't go back to her house or the playhouse. They couldn't stay in the storm drain forever, and Emma was starting to realize that they couldn't handle this alone anymore. Emma pulled out the cell phone Jake had given her and stared at the number for Agent Torres. Jake had said he was one of the good guys, but how could Emma be sure? What if he was working with the people who were hunting Ranger? Emma made a decision. She would try to contact Agent Torres, but she would be very careful about what she said. If he really was one of the good guys, maybe he could help them. If not, Emma would hang up and find another way. Emma dialed the number with shaking fingers. The phone rang 3 times before a man's voice answered. "Torres." Hello," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Emma, and I think I need help." There was a pause. "Emma, how did you get this number?" "Jake gave it to me. He said you helped with the Northside corruption case." Another pause, longer this time. "Emma, are you in danger right now?" "I think so, and so is my friend. Jake said if you knew about Northside, then you were one of the good guys." "Jake is my partner's son," Agent Torres said, and Emma could hear the concern in his voice. "Emma, where are you right now?" Emma hesitated. This was the moment of truth. Either Agent Torres was really trying to help, or she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. "I'm hiding with a dog named Ranger," Emma said finally. "She has a chip with information about arms dealers and dead soldiers." The silence on the other end of the phone stretched so long that Emma thought the call had been disconnected. Finally, Agent Torres spoke, and his voice was very serious. Emma, listen to me very carefully. Where exactly are you right now? Emma told him about the storm drain, and Agent Torres immediately told her that wasn't safe enough. Emma, there are people looking for that dog who will hurt anyone who gets in their way. You and Ranger need to get somewhere more secure immediately. Where? Emma asked. They're watching my house, and they're searching everywhere. There's an old warehouse on Oak Street near the train tracks. It's been abandoned for years, but it's dry and hidden. Can you get there? Emma thought about it. Oak Street was about a mile away, and she would have to carry the puppies while Ranger walked. It would be dangerous, but staying in the storm drain was dangerous too. I think so, Emma said. But Agent Torres, how do I know I can really trust you? Because, Emma, I've been hunting the same people who are hunting Ranger for over 2 years. The evidence on that chip could help me put some very bad people in prison for a very long time. Emma felt a surge of hope. So, you believe me? About the chip and everything? Emma, 3 days ago, we lost contact with Sergeant Martinez and his K-9 unit during a classified operation. We've been looking for both the team and their evidence ever since. If Ranger really has that information, then she's the key to stopping a major criminal organization. Emma felt relief wash over her. Finally, an adult who understood what was happening and wanted to help. Agent Torres, there's something else. I have a copy of the information from Ranger's chip. My cousin Jake made a backup before the bad guys found us. Smart kid. Emma, I need you to get to that warehouse as quickly and safely as possible. I'll meet you there in 2 hours. But Emma, you cannot trust anyone else. Some of the people looking for Ranger might be wearing police uniforms or government badges, but they're not the good guys. Do you understand? I understand, Emma said, though the thought of more fake police officers made her stomach turn. And Emma? What you're doing is incredibly brave. You're protecting evidence that could save a lot of lives, but I need you to be extra careful now, okay? After hanging up, Emma looked at Ranger and her puppies. Okay, girl, we're going to meet someone who might be able to help us, but first, we have to get across town without being seen. Emma carefully picked up 2 of the puppies, tucking them inside her jacket. Ranger picked up the other 2 in her mouth, and together they began the dangerous journey to Oak Street. Moving through the neighborhood was like playing the world's most dangerous game of hide-and-seek. Emma had to constantly watch for the black van, for men with flashlights, for anyone who might be looking for them. She stuck to alleys, backyards, and side streets, avoiding the main roads entirely. Halfway to the warehouse, Emma spotted the black van parked at a gas station. She quickly ducked behind a dumpster, pulling Ranger down beside her. Through a gap in the fence, Emma could see 2 men standing next to the van, talking on their phones. Emma strained to hear what they were saying, and what she heard made her blood run cold. The kid definitely knows something. She was lying when we questioned her. Should we grab her and make her talk? Not yet. Too risky with all the attention, but keep watching her house. She'll lead us to the asset eventually. Emma's hands shook as she realized they were talking about her. These men were planning to kidnap her if they couldn't find Ranger any other way. Emma had never been so scared in her life, but she also felt a fierce determination. She couldn't let these people win. Emma waited until the men got back in their van and drove away, then continued toward the warehouse. The journey took almost an hour, with several more close calls, but finally Emma saw the old building Agent Torres had described. The warehouse was huge and looked like it had been empty for years. Some of the windows were broken, and weeds grew up around the foundation. But it was isolated and hidden, which made it perfect for their purposes. Emma found a way inside through a loose board in the back wall. The interior was dark and dusty, but it was dry and warm. Emma set up a makeshift bed for Ranger and the puppies using some old tarps she found in a corner. This isn't as nice as the playhouse, Emma told Ranger as she got the puppies settled, but it's safer. Emma had been waiting in the warehouse for about an hour when she heard a car pulling up. Outside, Emma's heart began to race. What if it wasn't Agent Torres? What if the bad guys had somehow traced her phone call? Emma hid behind a stack of old crates, keeping Ranger and the puppies quiet. She heard footsteps approaching the building and then a voice calling out, "Emma?" "It's Agent Torres. I'm alone, and I'm here to help." Emma peeked out from her hiding spot and saw a man in his 40s wearing jeans and a casual jacket. He didn't look like the men who had been hunting them. He looked more like somebody's dad. "How do I know you're really Agent Torres?" Emma called out, still hidden. The man smiled slightly. Because I know that Jake's dad helped me catch corrupt city officials who were stealing money meant for schools and parks. That was the Northside corruption case. Emma felt relief flood through her. That was exactly what Jake had told her to ask about. Emma stepped out from behind the crates, and Agent Torres got his first look at Ranger and her puppies. "Incredible," he said softly. "That's definitely Ranger. She looks exactly like her file photos, except..." He paused, staring at the puppies. She had babies. 4 of them, Emma said proudly. "I helped deliver them." Agent Torres looked at Emma with amazement. "Emma, do you realize what you've done? You've protected not just crucial evidence, but also probably the most valuable military working dog in the country. And you did it all by yourself." Emma felt a warm glow of pride, but it was quickly replaced by worry. "Agent Torres, are Ranger and her babies really safe now? Will those men stop looking for them?" Agent Torres's expression grew serious. "Emma, I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't over yet. The people looking for Ranger are very dangerous, and they have resources that make them hard to stop. But with the evidence on that chip, we now have a chance to shut down their entire operation." Agent Torres examined the memory chip Emma gave him, loading it onto a secure laptop he'd brought with him. As he scrolled through the files, his expression grew more and more serious. "This is incredible," he said finally. "Emma, this chip contains evidence of the largest illegal arms dealing operation we've ever discovered. Photos, financial records, communication logs, everything we need to arrest dozens of people and stop weapons from reaching terrorist groups." "So, the bad guys will go to prison?" Emma asked hopefully. "If we can get this evidence to the right people, yes. But Emma, that's the problem. Some of the people we need to arrest are actually working inside our own government. We have to be very careful about who we trust with this information." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. "You mean there might be more fake police officers?" "Exactly. The corruption goes deeper than we thought. But Emma, I have a plan. There's an FBI office in the next city over that I know is clean. If we can get there with this evidence, we can start making arrests immediately." Emma looked at Ranger and her puppies. "What about them? Can they come with us?" Agent Torres nodded. "Actually, Emma, Ranger and her puppies will be safer in FBI protection than anywhere else. And once we arrest the people who killed Sergeant Martinez, Ranger won't have to run anymore." Just then, Emma heard something that made her heart stop. The sound of multiple cars pulling up outside the warehouse. Through the broken windows, Emma could see the beams of flashlights moving around the building. "They found us," Emma whispered. Agent Torres immediately drew his gun and moved to the window. "Emma, take Ranger and the puppies to the back of the building. There's an emergency exit behind those crates." "What about you?" Emma asked, scooping up 2 of the puppies. "I'll hold them off as long as I can. But Emma, you have to get that evidence to safety. Everything depends on it." Emma heard men's voices outside, getting closer to the building. She recognized one of them. It was the same man who had questioned her in her backyard. "We know you're in there," the man called out. "Send out the girl and the dog, and nobody gets hurt." Agent Torres looked at Emma seriously. "Emma, I need you to listen very carefully. Take this phone and this address." He handed her a piece of paper. "If something happens to me, you call that number and tell them Agent Torres sent you. They'll know what to do." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But I don't want to leave you here. Emma, you're the bravest person I've ever met. But right now, Ranger and that evidence are more important than any one person. You have to get them to safety." Emma heard glass breaking at the front of the warehouse. The men were coming inside. Emma made a decision that surprised even herself. Instead of running immediately, she pulled out Jake's phone and quickly sent a text message to a number Jake had programmed in, the local news station. "Corrupt agents trying to steal evidence at abandoned warehouse on Oak Street. Send cameras now." "What are you doing?" Agent Torres asked. "If they're fake government agents, they won't want to be on the news," Emma said. "Maybe the cameras will scare them away." Agent Torres smiled despite the dangerous situation. "Emma, that's brilliant." Emma heard the men getting closer. It was time to go. She picked up 2 puppies while Ranger carried the other 2, and together they headed for the back exit. But as Emma reached the emergency door, she heard something that made her freeze. Agent Torres was shouting, and there were sounds of a struggle. Then she heard a gunshot. Emma's heart nearly stopped. She wanted to run back and help Agent Torres, but she knew he was right. The evidence was more important than anything else. With tears streaming down her face, Emma pushed open the emergency door and led Ranger into the dark night. Behind them, the warehouse was filled with shouting voices and flashlight beams. But ahead of them was only darkness and uncertainty. Emma had the most important evidence in the world, a mother dog with 4 newborn puppies and nowhere safe to go. But Emma also had something else, a determination to see this through to the end, no matter what it cost her. Agent Torres had called her the bravest person he'd ever met, and Emma was going to prove him right. As she ran into the night with Ranger and the puppies, Emma made a promise to herself, to Agent Torres, and to Sergeant Martinez's memory. She was going to get this evidence to the right people, and she was going to make sure the bad guys paid for what they had done. The final chase was just beginning, and Emma was ready for whatever came next. Emma ran through the dark streets with Ranger and the puppies, her heart pounding with every step. Behind them, she could hear shouting and the sound of car engines starting up. The men from the warehouse were following them, and Emma knew they wouldn't give up easily. Emma's mind raced as she tried to think of where to go. Agent Torres had given her an address, but it was in the next city over, too far to reach on foot with 4 newborn puppies. She needed somewhere closer, somewhere safe, somewhere the bad guys wouldn't think to look. That's when Emma remembered something. Her teacher, Mrs. Chen, had once mentioned that her husband worked for the FBI. Emma had never thought much about it before, but now it seemed like her only hope. Emma pulled out the phone Agent Torres had given her and called information, asking for Mrs. Chen's home address. The operator gave her an address on Elm Street, only 6 blocks away. "Come on, Ranger," Emma whispered, adjusting her grip on the 2 puppies tucked inside her jacket. "We're going to see my teacher." But getting to Elm Street wasn't going to be easy. Emma could see headlights searching the streets around them, and she heard the black van's engine getting closer. She had to stay hidden while covering 6 blocks with a mother dog and 4 tiny puppies. Emma ducked into an alley just as the black van turned onto their street. Through a gap in a fence, she watched as the van stopped directly where they had been walking just moments before. 2 men got out with flashlights, scanning the area. "The tracks end here," one of them said. "They can't have gone far with those puppies." "Check every building, every alley, every hiding spot," the other man replied. "The boss wants that evidence tonight." Emma held her breath as the men searched the area around them. One of them came within 10 feet of their hiding spot, his flashlight beam sweeping back and forth across the alley. Emma pressed herself against the wall, holding the puppies close to keep them quiet. Ranger seemed to understand the danger and lay perfectly still, not making a sound. Even the puppies, as if sensing the tension, remained quiet in their mother's mouth and in Emma's jacket. After what felt like forever, the men moved on to search other areas. Emma waited until she couldn't hear their footsteps anymore, then carefully made her way out of the alley. The journey to Mrs. Chen's house took almost 2 hours. Emma had to stop and hide every time she heard a car engine, and twice she had to backtrack when she spotted the black van or other suspicious vehicles. By the time she reached Elm Street, Emma was exhausted, scared, and fighting back tears. Mrs. Chen's house was a small, cozy home with a garden in front and warm lights in the windows. Emma stood at the front door for a long moment, gathering her courage. What if Mrs. Chen didn't believe her? What if her husband wasn't really FBI? What if she was making a terrible mistake? But Emma thought about Agent Torres, who might be hurt or dead because he tried to help her. She thought about Sergeant Martinez, who had died protecting the evidence that Ranger carried. She thought about all the people who might be hurt if the arms dealers weren't stopped. Emma rang the doorbell. Mrs. Chen opened the door in her bathrobe, looking confused and worried. "Emma, what are you doing here? It's almost midnight." "Mrs. Chen," Emma said, her voice shaking with exhaustion and fear. "I need help. Really, really bad help." Mrs. Chen looked at Emma's dirty clothes, her tear-stained face, and the way she was holding something inside her jacket. Then she noticed Ranger standing behind Emma. "Emma, what's going on? Are you hurt? Where are your parents?" "Mrs. Chen, is your husband really FBI?" Emma asked desperately. "Because I have evidence about really bad people, and an FBI agent got shot trying to help me, and there are fake government agents trying to kill me and Ranger." Mrs. Chen stared at Emma for a moment, then quickly pulled her inside and locked the door behind them. "David," Mrs. Chen called to her husband, "come here right now. And bring your badge." A tall man in pajamas appeared in the hallway, looking confused. When he saw Emma and Ranger, his expression became very serious. "I'm Agent David Chen, FBI," he said, showing Emma his badge. "Emma, tell me exactly what's happening." Emma told them everything, finding Ranger in the recycling bin, the memory chip with classified information, the arms dealers, the corrupt agents, and Agent Torres getting shot at the warehouse. She showed them the backup drive Jake had made, and Agent Torres's phone with the emergency contact information. Agent Chen examined the evidence while his wife got Emma something to eat and checked on Ranger and the puppies. When Agent Chen finished reading the files, his face was pale. "Emma," he said seriously, "this is the biggest case I've ever seen. This evidence could shut down an international arms dealing ring and expose corruption that goes all the way to the top of several government agencies." "So you believe me?" Emma asked hopefully. "Every word. And Emma, what you've done is incredibly brave, but we're not safe here. If these people are as dangerous as you say, they'll eventually figure out where you've gone." Agent Chen immediately called his FBI headquarters and spoke in code words that Emma didn't understand. When he hung up, he looked relieved. "Emma, there's a secure FBI facility about an hour from here. We're going to take you, Ranger, and the evidence there right now. You'll be under federal protection, and we can start making arrests immediately." Mrs. Chen had prepared a comfortable carrier for Ranger's puppies and gathered supplies for the journey. As they prepared to leave, Emma felt hope for the first time in days. But just as they were getting ready to go, Emma heard a sound that made her stomach drop. Cars pulling up outside the house. Agent Chen looked out the window and immediately drew his gun. Multiple vehicles, armed men. "Emma, take Ranger and go to the basement, now." Emma grabbed the puppy carrier and led Ranger downstairs just as she heard pounding on the front door. "FBI, open up!" a voice shouted. But Agent Chen didn't move toward the door. "Those aren't real FBI agents," he told his wife quietly. "Real agents would have called first and identified themselves properly." Emma heard Agent Chen talking to the men outside, trying to stall for time, but she also heard other sounds, footsteps around the house, like people were surrounding the building. "Emma," Agent Chen called down to the basement. "There's a tunnel that leads to the house next door. My neighbor is also FBI, and he's been alerted. Take Ranger and follow the tunnel. Agent Williams will meet you on the other side." Emma found the tunnel entrance hidden behind some storage boxes. It was narrow and dark, but it was their only way out. Emma crawled through first with 2 puppies, then helped Ranger bring the other 2. The tunnel was longer than Emma expected, and she could hear muffled shouting and what sounded like breaking glass from the house behind them. Emma prayed that Agent Chen and Mrs. Chen would be okay. Finally, Emma saw light ahead. She emerged in another basement, where a man in an FBI jacket was waiting for them. "Emma? I'm Agent Williams. Agent Chen told me you'd be coming through. Are you okay?" Emma nodded, though she was shaking with fear and exhaustion. "Are Agent Chen and Mrs. Chen safe?" "They're fine. Agent Chen is very experienced at handling situations like this, but we need to get you out of here immediately." Agent Williams led Emma and Ranger up into his house, where an FBI van was waiting in the garage. Within minutes, they were driving through the night toward the secure facility Agent Chen had mentioned. As they drove, Emma watched the city lights pass by and felt a mix of relief and sadness. She was finally safe, and Ranger and her puppies were safe too. But the adventure that had started with a simple walk around the neighborhood was almost over. "Emma," Agent Williams said as they drove, "I want you to know that what you did will save countless lives. The evidence you protected will help us arrest over 40 people involved in this arms dealing ring, including several corrupt government officials." "What about Ranger?" Emma asked. "What will happen to her and her puppies?" Agent Williams smiled. "Ranger has earned her retirement. The FBI has a program for military working dogs who complete their service. She'll be offered for adoption to a family who understands her background and training." Emma's heart sank. "So, I won't see her again?" "Well," Agent Williams said carefully, "that depends. Would your family be interested in adopting a very special dog and her 4 puppies?" Emma's eyes widened with excitement. "Really? We could keep Ranger and her babies?" "If your parents agree, yes. Ranger has bonded with you, and you've certainly proven you can take care of her. Plus, she'll need a family who understands her unique history." Emma felt tears of joy running down her cheeks. After everything they had been through together, she wouldn't have to say goodbye to Ranger after all. The secure FBI facility was a modern building surrounded by high fences and security guards. Emma was amazed by how many agents were working, even in the middle of the night. Agent Williams explained that as soon as they had received the evidence, teams had been mobilized to make arrests all across the country. Emma, one of the senior agents, told her, "Because of your bravery, we've already arrested 12 people tonight, including the men who were chasing you. By tomorrow, we expect to have the entire criminal organization shut down." Emma was given a comfortable room to rest in, and Ranger and her puppies were provided with everything they needed. A veterinarian examined them and confirmed that all 4 puppies were healthy and strong. As Emma lay in bed that night, with Ranger sleeping peacefully beside her and the 4 puppies curled up in their basket, she thought about everything that had happened. Just a few days ago, she had been an ordinary 5-year-old girl. Now she was a hero who had helped bring down an international criminal organization. The next morning, Emma woke up to find her mom and dad waiting for her in the facility's conference room. They had been contacted by the FBI and told the whole story. Emma was worried they might be angry with her for keeping such a big secret, but instead, they hugged her tight and told her how proud they were. "Emma," her dad said, "Agent Williams told us about Ranger and her puppies. Would you like them to come live with us?" Emma's face lit up with the biggest smile of her life. "Really? We can keep them all?" "All 5 of them," her mom confirmed, "though we're going to need a bigger backyard." 2 weeks later, Emma was back in her own neighborhood, but everything was different now. The playhouse where she had first hidden Ranger had been renovated into a proper doghouse. The backyard had been fenced and expanded, and most importantly, Ranger and her 4 puppies, who Emma had named Hope, Courage, Justice, and Peace, were officially part of the family. Emma learned that Agent Torres had survived the shooting and would make a full recovery. Jake had been honored by the FBI for his technical assistance, and all 43 members of the arms dealing ring had been arrested and would spend many years in prison. Mrs. Chin had returned to teaching, and she often told Emma's class about how one brave student had helped solve one of the biggest criminal cases in the country's history. Emma always blushed when Mrs. Chin told the story, but she was proud of what she had accomplished. On quiet evenings, Emma would sit in the backyard with Ranger and watch the puppies play. Ranger was no longer the scared, pregnant dog Emma had found in a recycling bin. She was confident, happy, and completely devoted to the little girl who had saved her life. "I didn't just find a dog that day," Emma would whisper to Ranger as they watched the sunset together. "I found my hero, but you know what? I think maybe you found yours too." Ranger would always respond by gently licking Emma's hand and resting her head on her lap, as if to say that Emma was right. They had saved each other, and now they would always be together. Emma had learned that being a hero didn't mean being fearless. It meant being afraid but doing the right thing anyway. It meant protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. And it meant never giving up, even when everything seemed impossible. And most importantly, Emma had learned that sometimes the most incredible adventures begin with the simplest acts of kindness. All she had done was help a scared, trapped animal. But that one act of compassion had changed everything. Not just for her and Ranger, but for countless people around the world who would never know how close they had come to danger. As Emma grew older, she would tell this story to her own children and grandchildren, and every time she told it, she would end the same way. Remember, you're never too small to make a big difference. Sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply refuse to walk away when someone needs help. And they all lived happily, safely, and heroically ever after. That's the end of our incredible true story. Thank you so much for listening to Emma and Ranger's amazing adventure. If this story touched your heart like it touched ours, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more incredible true stories. And don't forget to comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our viewers around the world.